You should be re-rolling for hours to get yourself the best start. And I'm talking about starting with Laevatain and your top units from the standard banner. And if you're really smart, try to lose a 50-50 and get yourself a double limited pull on day one. Look, I'm just messing with you. That is dumb. Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of questions on re-rolling. I know there's going to be a ton of questions on should you pull. And I want to talk about that today before this launches here in, I don't know, a day and a half. We're pretty close, or maybe you're watching this after launch, because I don't want you to fall into common gacha traps. So that's what this video is about today, is which of these units are actually worth a darn and why none of that actually even matters, and also why I'm not even re-rolling. Okay, a gacha veteran of the industry, or whatever you want to call me. So let's dive in. I'll throw some video on in the background, as you can see, some stock footage from beta that I recorded while I was playing, so you have something pretty to look at. But first and foremost, what you need to know about Endfield is that there's no competition. There's no PvP. There's not at least as of yet, there's not any announcements that the PvP will come. And so key units to outpace your opponents just don't exist because there's nothing to challenge in terms of another player. So unlike some gacha games that put a heavy emphasis on that PvP aspect, that player versus player, it just doesn't exist here. So right off the bat, if you're missing a support unit or if you're missing a specific DPS, you're not like in an ethereal restart or something like that, where it's going to diminish your ability to progress in the game. So that's the first part. Second part, as of beta and as of everything I've seen thus far, and I did a whole bunch of looking around, so, unless my Google search foo is terrible, I don't see any leaderboards. There are other games, for example, I cover Persona 5X if you look at my channel. There are some other games that have leaderboards where you have a specific mode where you go for a potential score, and whoever has the highest score is the winner. And ultimately, those games come down to haves and have-nots. You either have the units and you have the duplicates and the weapons, and that's what enables you to have the best chance of winning, or you don't, and you can progress pretty high. I'm actually fairly competitive in Persona 5X for the lack of, A6 characters I have, but you're ultimately not going to beat the whales. And so the whales chase PvP. The whales chase these leaderboard metas. And so where does that leave us for Endfield? And frankly, it only leaves you with a couple of challenge modes that exist in the game. So one of them, and I'll put up a clip here at some point, is a series of challenges. And these challenges ask for kind of a different team composition. So for example, the first stage, the enemies don't move. They're stuck in one spot, but you can clear faster if you're using AoE. There's another challenge where I believe it is you constantly take poison damage, if I'm not mistaken. And so you might want to have some healing items, or again, if you just clear through it fast enough, then it really doesn't matter. And then the final stage, I forget what the third stage was. The final stage is where you have two different bosses that alternate coming onto the field, and you have to kill each of them individually and then combined at the same time. And that presents its own challenges because you're dealing with a melee plus a range at the same time. Your party might be splitting up, things like that. And so these are the kind of challenges that they put into these challenge modes. And there's two varieties. The normal mode in beta actually didn't let you have healing items. And in launch, they've changed that to let you have the tactical items at the normal stage level. And those ones, as long as you are staying current on your gear, as long as you've kind of understood the combo system and how to make characters work together, you're going to be able to beat that at the normal mode with whatever team you want. You're going to need a DPS, of course, in there, but a little bit of support or a little bit of core synergy. And as long as you're decent at the game, you're going to get through it. If you're not good at dodging, if you're not good at understanding the combo system, which honestly isn't that bad, I've got videos for it as well, then no super unit's going to save you here. Like, you actually do have to know how to dodge. Okay, don't stand in fire. You know the rules. So those modes at the normal stage difficulties, you're going to be fine. Now, only a handful of people really played them at level 99 in beta, which I'm guessing will be level 90 now. And that's because only a handful of creators that I'm aware of had kind of the super beta account that had all the things given to them. Myself, and I think most average content creators, only had beta, and we had to level up. We had to do our own gearing and everything else. And that's why if you watch my videos, I stopped at level 60, because the amount of commitment it would have taken me to get to level 99 just wasn't realistic with the job and everything else. But the challenge modes I was just mentioning, they do go up to that highest level. And at that point, they, from what I can tell, are stopping you from using what's called tactical items, which is like your heal item slot or your buff item slot. And so you might have to actually bring a healer, etc. And those are meant to be harder. You'll take more damage, but you can also do more damage because you'll have better gear at that level, all the fun things. And I suspect, honestly, that those are still going to be doable with your standard characters, the characters that you're getting on the regular banner, not necessarily these limited ones. The other places that there are challenges, I would say probably falls into re-challenging the bosses, because you can go into a special mode to use a stamina and you can keep leveling them up. So there's like, you beat stage 1, then stage 2, and eventually they're going to be, level 99 or whatever. And those bosses, will have more HP, they'll do more damage. But again, you're probably challenging the level 99 when you're, close to that level yourself, or 90, whatever they end up being, at the end game. And you're not trying to challenge them at level 30. Okay. If you're on par with level, what this game rewards you for is skill. Can you dodge? Can you, again, control your combos correctly? Do you know when to do a finisher versus when to go into a move? Do you know the boss's patterns, right? There's a particular boss who puts up these walls and you have to hide behind the walls so you don't get hit. Well, you can actually still hit him for a good, 5 or 6 seconds before you go behind the wall. And I'll oftentimes use that as a single target timing. There's other things you do to, stagger bosses. And for example, with Yvonne, you want to stagger the boss and then just unload her ultimate. You don't use her ultimate in the middle of a fight when you can take damage. So there's all sorts of strategies that will allow you to defeat the modes. And again, there's no leaderboard. So if you can beat it in 5 minutes, you beat it in 5 minutes. On the modes that do have timers, it's really mostly a gear check. It's a level, gear, somewhat of a skill check. It has not presented itself yet through all of the betas to be I spent money or I saved all my pulls and I got this very specific character that we saw someone else do crazy damage on. Now, I will say that yes, these other units can do a lot of damage or do a lot of good things for your account. Leavatain, I know for a fact that there's a 20-second level 99 boss clear out there. I think it's on Billy. I don't know who did it. But the point is that was like a high-end account, lots of gear, using the right characters and everything else. It doesn't mean you can't beat that boss. Does it mean that Laevatain can do it faster? Yes, but why do you need to do it faster? And that brings up the main point, is your FOMO, your fear of missing out. Okay, I know it. I'm in Gacha space. I get fear of missing out all the time. I do it every single banner when it comes to Persona 5. So, I live and dream it. And even with this game, I even thought about that too. Like, do I pull in Laevatain? Well, the fact is, I didn't really like playing Laevatain. She didn't sync with me. So even though I know she can do a 20-second clear on this boss, or at least in beta she could, who knows with live what they change, I can still beat the bosses. It doesn't matter. And so I first and foremost want to tell you to pull who's fun. Okay, I know that's a generic thing to say in the gacha space, whatever, but you are not going into a game with heavy PvP, heavy leaderboards, or any leaderboards for that matter so far. You are going into a game that is effectively a single player game. They have talked about adding modes where you get to combine and fight bosses, but again, that's not PvP. That's combined talent going into a super boss or something like that. And a lot of the teams, honestly, that I had the most fun on were not the limited units. Now, did I like them? Yes, Yvonne is probably my favorite character and is probably followed up by Pog. But I had so much fun on these other teams, and the 4 stars are good. The 4 stars actually are featured in some of the best teams. The 5 stars, very, very good. And then the 6 stars you get on the standard are also very good. There's really not a bunch in the way of duds in this game. So you are free to build the team that you want and have fun with the team that you want to play, not what is quote unquote the meta, because I would challenge you with, well, what is meta in a game with no competition? To me, that becomes meta is fun. What is my meta? My meta is going into the game and being excited to log in. But for the sake of it, I do want to tell you about the 3 characters so that you have a bit of a, what's what with this individual. And I did have a different video on more of the characters, but just to kind of recap a little bit into there. So first is Laevatain. She is kind of billed as this AoE queen of fire, and she really is. She does a ton of damage. And so when you build her team to really cater into her combustion and everything else that she does, she will stack on her unique mechanic to increase and amp up her damage, and then she unleashes it with her ultimate. And you can combo her with characters, I think Antal is one of them, that do what's called Link. And Link will give you basically, in short, a buff for, skill usage or your ultimates. And so if you time it right, you're buffing her ultimate, and her ultimate is just destructive. And this is part of why she does the 20-second clear. But in any case, she is phenomenal. And if you just want an out and out crazy powerhouse damage dealer, she's absolutely going to be there. She absolutely can do that job. Now, are there other characters that can do crazy damage? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of the I would say standard 6-star units that are more damage focused are still going to get the job done. But if you like the fire unit, you like the way Laevatain looks, you can at least rest assured that she is going to do phenomenal damage. She might be, I say this with some caution, she might be the best AoE map clearer at the start of the game. And where that can be helpful is when you're going through day-to-day missions or the map itself, you are almost always going to be fighting multiple units. There's a couple spaces where you fight like a bigger, almost like a mini boss, not really mini boss, but it's a single enemy and it's a bigger one. Most of the time you're fighting groups of enemies. And so she will plow. She will absolutely plow through those and will get you through faster. So if you're like a speed demon who wants to get to, you know, the quote unquote end game super fast, she's probably going to be the fastest to get you there of the launch units. Okay, so she's super, super good. So then we have Gliberta. She's more in that kind of support control type function. She's a nature element, so she can help with corrosion, etc. And she, I think one of her biggest things is she helps group enemies. So she has like gravity wells on both her skill and her ultimate. And so what it does is it groups people together, which makes things like your AoE units easier to, you know, plow through those, or even your single target damage dealers, because you'll hit them and then you can quickly shift targets around. And then her ultimate does like a bigger gravity well, and then it lifts the characters up so that they can't hurt you. So she's good from a control standpoint. She's not going to be there to be a you know, big damage dealer, but she will pair well into teams where you want to group and control. So not a bad character. I think of the three, you know, starting characters, she was my least favorite playstyle personally, but the cutest character from the way that her animations are. So she's got like that fun aspect to her, like when she's running around the map and stuff. But I would say that if you're looking for like the ultra meta, unless it's like a pairing her with someone else like a Leavatain who, you know, wants to do AoE, I don't necessarily think she fits a, you know, quote unquote meta on her own. Then we have, who is honestly my favorite, Yvonne. Yvonne is ultimately your single target crazy nuker, right? She can do some AoE. Some of her moves are AoE in the way that they work. She even has her own little kind of a gravity type spell on, was it her combo? I think it might have been her combo off the top of my head. I can't remember. But in any case, what you do with her is you're setting up solidification so that she can trigger her combo, and then that charges her ultimate faster. And in doing so, what you do is you pair her with high stagger type characters that can stagger bosses or stagger harder enemies. And once they're staggered, they're in this like down state, staggered state, and they can't fight back and they take more damage. And so you time it so that you stagger them. Then you go into her ultimate as buffed up as you can be, and then she just unloads. And she is a crit-based character, so when you get into like the 80+ range and you start getting into like the crit gear, like she's going to go off. She's going to pop off. So she is going to be probably the best single target damage dealer of the opening batch of characters. Now, there's other single target damage dealers, again, within the game itself. I think Last Right is a single target damage dealer who does really well. But the point is, you know, she is probably going to fare a little bit better in the right types of party setups. So if you're looking at the first three and you're saying, who do I really want? I think you've got a massively good AoE damage dealer with Laevatain. She's going to help you field clear as you go through the game. You've got a potential, and we haven't seen bosses hard enough to really matter, but a potential ridiculous single target damage dealer in Yvonne, and then a pretty good, you know, support grouping type character who does a little bit of healing. It's not a dedicated healer, but that's with Gliberta. So my personal plan for me is I'm going to pull for favorites. I may choose to go to the 80-50-50 just for the sake of having fun during the stream, but it's not necessarily because I want Laevatain. I actually would hope to fail her and get Yvonne early if I could plan anything. And my actual first chase is going to be Yvonne. But that's because, again, she's one of my favorites and I just have fun playing her. I like her play style. She's also Ice Element, which is my favorite element. So it lines up. And then I'm going to save because there's some characters you meet in the story, which I don't want to spoil, who, based on the silhouettes, are undoubtedly going to be some of the next banners. I'm not sure who the very next banner is going to be after the first three, but you can tell by the silhouettes that they're coming soon. And there's a couple I'm going to want to pull on. Not going to talk about them until we get far enough in the story. Again, I don't want to give story spoilers. And so I want to save quite a few resources for when they come out. But that's my perspective. And so just circling back a little bit here, this game has no competitive edge. It doesn't have PvP, doesn't have leaderboards. Again, unless they change something between beta. None of us saw it in beta. at least that I'm aware of. And so your meta should be defined by what you want to play and have fun with, because even the non-limited characters can clear all the content. And the team I used the most in all of beta did not have a single limited character on it, period. And I was destroying things. I was destroying things 20 levels above me. Like, it was super good. So don't be afraid to skip banners. Don't get caught up in the FOMO hype. If you don't want the character, don't let someone talk you into it, okay? What are you competing for? Your own fun? Like, are you going to go on Twitter and post your top scores? If you're that person, fine, do it. If you're going to go on Twitter and say, I beat this boss in 8 seconds, cool. If you're one of the 40 content creators, because I didn't get invited, that is trying to win money, okay, fine, go be meta. Go be meta. But otherwise, if you're an average person like me, go have fun with your game. But that's my opinion on the first 3 starting ones as well. My friends, please drop a like and sub on the video. Help this channel grow. Help me get out to more people. And until the live streams ramp up or until our next video, please take care of yourselves.